limited participation and using the protocol, but that's another good sign.
That's another good sign. It's part of the step, and then tomorrow hopefully he'll take another step. So we're pretty excited about that so far. In the meantime, Amini and those guys will continue to work at guard for us. Both, Amini played very well last week and the week before, so we feel good either way.
Ron, when you consider how closely fought this NFC South is, and you kind of go back to this last Atlanta Falcons game, how large now does that Julio Jones drop kind of seem in terms of the momentum of everything?
Oh, it's believe me, stuff like that is really immeasurable just because, momentum shifts so quickly and how important it is to play with momentum, and we were very fortunate at that point. Again, you go back and you look at a lot of things that happen in a lot of games, and whether it's a drop or a missed tackle or a fumble or something like that, those things that can create momentum in tight games, those are important.
Right. I guess Sean McVay's saying that he's going to rest the majority or at least a lot of his starters. And I know to each his own, and you shared what you're going to do, but do you think about how a decision like that could have a trickle effect across the league?
Oh, very much so. Winning and losing is going to have a trickle effect. There's about 5 teams that are all involved in what happens with winning or losing. So, whether they do or don't, we'll see what happens on Sunday. But there's a lot at stake for a lot of games, not just their game, but what goes on with New Orleans, what goes on with us in Atlanta, what goes on with Seattle. There's a lot of potential. So we'll just go ahead and play our game and see what happens.
I know it's early. Who knows what's going to happen with some of the guys on this list, but would that be one scenario if you had a guy who's injured that you might think about?
Yeah, the injury was the one thing you would think about. Everything else, you're concerned about winning and going forward more so than anything else. And that'll be our approach, Joe, as we start getting ready. Because, this is one of those things too that this could be one of these. We could be one of these types of teams that if you start playing, you got momentum, you want to keep playing.
When we think about guys like Demir, what Ted Ginn used to do, a lot of times we're just like, oh no, straight line speed. Well, what do you need them to do in the intermediate, shorter part of the field that helps the offense?
Well, I think, again, going back and look at it, with Kalen, we have a guy that still stretches the field, has that kind of ability. Funch can do that too, but Funch also is really good at those intermediate depths. He runs a good crossing route. He runs a good comeback route. Burson has shown that intermediate area is a real good spot for him as well. Shep is really an underneath guy for us. He catch the ball, he's physical, he can take the hits. And probably the guy that's interesting, a lot of you guys don't know a lot about him, has been Mose Frazier, who's had a really good camp and has been here just working his way up and finally gets the opportunity. So, Sunday you'll get an opportunity to see a little bit more of him, and we'll see how that goes.
Kalen to get open in some of those crossing routes, does that help?
Well, yeah, they do, but again, with what we want to do, probably the biggest thing is being able to stretch the field first and foremost, because that creates the underneath stuff.
What if I told you back in training camp this would be your top 5 receivers?
That's how I'd reacted. But I will say this, so coming out of training camp and look at the guys that we have, Kalen made the team originally, and then we traded him and got him back. So that doesn't surprise me. Burson is more than worthy of being the 5th or 4th receiver on this roster, and now he's got an opportunity to be the number 3. So again, he's a guy that knows the system and in the system and can play all 3 positions for us. So, we feel pretty good about who they are and what they can do for us. And again, if we spread the ball, and you guys know that's one of the things I've talked about, is if we can spread the ball to a lot of guys, I think that helps us and opens up a lot of things.
In a wide receiver core that's had a lot of shakeups in it throughout the season, how much more valuable is Christian McCaffrey and his versatility for this offense?
Well, not just Christian, but I also think Fozzie Whitaker. Both those guys have the ability to be pass receiving threats, out of the backfield or lined up as a Z or an X or an F receiver for us. So it is important that you have guys that have that kind of combination. And you see it throughout the league now. You see backs being used in that. You see it when you watch New Orleans with what they're doing with their backs. So, it's important that you have guys that are versatile and can play more than one position.
As Devin gets more and more attention drawn his way, what does he need to do as sort of your number one guy to still find a way to get open and be a factor?
And that's exactly it. He's got to find ways to get open. And I think what's happening is he's learning and adjusting to the fact that now he is that guy that's getting the double. He's getting the over and under coverage. He's getting the slice coverage. There's guys inside and outside of him. It's just one of those things that it's kind of a progression for him in terms of his learning. I mean, being the number two is a little bit different. Not necessarily the guy they roll to. You're not necessarily the guy they double for the most part. Now he's got to think in that vein that, okay, as I line up, I look, okay, that guy got pressed. Okay, the safety's moving inside. Ooh, they're gonna double me up. Or, the guy comes up and press safety gets over the top. Okay, they're gonna try and press me with the guy over the top. So I got to be able to run specific routes to win here. I mean, those are the things that he's learning and those things that he'll get better at.
What gives you confidence that he can make that next step in his development?
Because he's a smart football player. He really is. I mean, he works at it. When the defense is taking their reps and the offense is off to the side, he's over there talking with the coaches and running some extra routes and catching some extra balls. I mean, he really works at it. And I think the biggest thing too is he's smart. Really, is a smart football player.
Ron, I think somebody asked you the other day, what would you bring in outside receiver? You said no. How much confidence does that show that you have in the guys that are?
Well, not just the players themselves, but the coaches that are coaching them. I think they do a tremendous job in terms of trying to prepare the players. But at the same respect, you got to have players that are willing to learn and be taught. So right now, there really is nobody on the outside, anyways, to bring in. So we like who we have, mostly because we kept them. I mean, you go back and look at what Mose has done for us, and he's always been a guy that's been in the on deck circle waiting for his opportunity, and now here's his opportunity.
Ron, who's doing more of the challenging with the secondary this week? The corners and the safeties or Coach Willis? They weren't pleased with the way they played against Tampa, so it seems like they kind of took it personally last week.
Which is good. They had opportunities to make plays. They know it, and they missed a couple of opportunities, but then they did some good things too. And and again, when you go back and look at a couple of the plays that were made against us, that goes hand in hand. Playing defensive football or playing football period is a team sport, and sometimes when the quarterback gets a little bit more time, he can find somebody downfield, and sometimes you got to put yourself in position to make a big tackle when a guy makes a good catch. So, it's one of those things that if you sit there and want to put it on one group, you got to look at the game completely and decide who should be put on. And to me, it's the ultimate team game.
How much effort during the week goes into like what Darryl seems to have gotten a knack for is when the other defensive player jumps, him reacting? Is that something you practice at? Or?
Well, I think it's something that happens now in practice. I mean, when we get a defensive guy jump, you see some of the guys move, on the offensive line. I mean, and probably the biggest thing that sticks out is that we had that happen in a game and we didn't get it called, and I know the guys pay attention to it, and so it's I want to say it's an emphasis, but they're just aware.
Russell Shepard just said that he nicknamed this group of receivers the Runts and the Misfits, the No Names. I'm wondering what your nickname for this group would be.
We'll have to figure one out. Maybe we can make a T-shirt too. So we'll see.
McCaffrey said he doesn't feel like he's really hit any kind of rookie wall. Have you sensed any of that from him?
No, I haven't. I mean, he's. It's interesting just watching him, the way he handles things. He handles it like he's been in the league for a few years. So he's got a good sense, I think, of what it takes. And again, with his upbringing, his father having played in the league, his mother having been an All-American in college, I think he understands what it takes. And so he's been really good, and he's handled it very well.
Anything else? It's nice to have the guys back on defense.
Oh, absolutely. It really is great having Thomas and Charles out there. And, this is always a big game for them, both of them being, from Georgia near Atlanta. They want to go out there and play well. And I think the novelty of going and playing in a new stadium, I think also is kind of a neat thing for our guys. So, look forward to it. I mean, this should be a really good game. I think it's a real good matchup, and we know them and they know us.
Charles looked like he came back in pretty good shape.
Yes, he did. He did. He moved around well, and he had a lot of energy, great enthusiasm out there, and I expect that to translate and carry over to Sunday.
What have you heard from other coaches about this new stadium for them?
Just that it's spacious. That's the biggest thing. They said you feel like some stadiums feel like they're small, compact. They said this one's spacious. Reminds them a little bit of the Dallas Stadium.
All right, Coach, appreciate it.
We're good? Cool. All right. Hope everybody had a good Christmas. Enjoyed their Christmas cookies.